Hey everyone. Sorry, had to restart the live stream. Could somebody put in Discord to let everybody know the live stream's still going? It just had to be restarted. We'll get Bob's here. We'll just wait like 30 more seconds for everybody to come back in. You know where
I know there were some questions. I don't know if,
we'll have to get them retyped.
yeah, if you, I think John A had a question specifically, but there it is. Did Japan intervene? They did.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, they did.
Uh all right, Sterling tweeted it out. Good. So, all right. What you know what I would like to touch on again, Bob?
What's that?
What was that bit about somebody else did the same research as me and came up with the same conclusion from a very smart person? I mean, I think we should touch on that a little more.
I think we should. I mean, look at Cameron Dawson's tweet. It basically matches what you said, Mike, that the yield curve has to steepen first before a bottom can be made. At least typically, historically, that's what's happened before. Um, there are a lot of things different about this particular time, but I don't think any of it applies to that research. I think it'll be the same. And part of that is because as the yield curve steepens, essentially the yield curve is pricing in future growth. And if we don't get inflation to the Fed's target, that future growth will keep inflation high. So what's high? Okay, everybody's all excited. My friend Jim Iorio is one of them too. They're all excited that, okay, inflation peaked. Thank God, everything's great. If anybody thinks that the Fed's going to pause here and in 3 months we're going to be at 2% inflation, you can't do math. That's the way I look at it. You can't do simple math. It's not going to happen. We're probably going to be, I think the lowest inflation can get in this particular cycle is 3.5 to 4% on PCE, which puts us at about 4.5 to 5% on CPI. So the yield curve steepening is the market pricing in a future of higher inflation, of them wanting higher yields to loan their money for longer periods of time. So earnings have been not great, not great at all, actually, especially tech earnings, especially zombie tech earnings. They've been terrible overall. If you look at, so Bloomberg posted this earlier, the punishing earnings misses. In other words, if an earnings miss happens, what happens to the stock? Right now, the average drop of a stock that misses earnings is 3.8%. That's the lowest by a wide margin since Bloomberg has been keeping records, which it only goes back to 2017, but still, it's the worst drop since Bloomberg's been keeping records. It's down 3.8%. The closest was last quarter, down 2.6%. So there's a lot pointing to that. Earnings, you look, for example, at earnings growth estimate cuts. If you go to July of July of this year, estimates for the second quarter were 6.3% on the S&P. They're now 2.2. For the fourth quarter, they were 7.1. They're now 4.6. And for the first quarter of 2023, the estimates were 7.5. They're now 5.2. So earnings estimates have been dropping, and stocks are having a hard time jumping a lowered bar. So again, the Wall Street Journal article, nothing in there that we haven't said in this live stream. Literally nothing that we haven't said in this live stream.
I just don't got. I really don't get it why it was taken so dovishly because even it was reiterated today. We can see next year 4.5 to 5% Fed funds rate.
Say that
Right?
again, Mike, the last part.
We could the Fed speakers have been reiterating, and it was even reiterated today that we could see 4.5 to 5% Fed funds rate next year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go with the top end of the range, even for December, you could be at 4.25 to 4.5 even with a 50 basis point hike.
Right. Now there's
So,
people out there, Bank of, or I'm sorry, BNP Paribas said 5%. I have a friend that says 6%. But the general consensus by what the Fed has said is 4.5 to 5% in the dot plots.
so I don't get why the pivot drum was banging all day. I just don't. I don't get it.
I just, to me, again, and this is part of the reason I said I thought the fourth quarter would be positive. Mike, you remember this part of the conversation. I said, I just think things are now a bit overdone. They're not done, but we went a little too much. I mean, just look at that triple bottom right there, or whatever chart that was.
What did I have up there?
I think you had a Dow or S&P or something. I don't remember.
That's the S&P.
Yeah, that wasn't it. It was a different time frame. But anyway, whatever. It's not important.
Oh, that was the yield curve I still had up there that you
Oh,
saw.
okay. That was a yield curve.
Uh, but Sterling asked a question. Bob, thoughts on Fed's daily saying he's estimating neutral Fed funds rate will be between 3 and 3.5. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's a 20% increase at 3%, 40% increase at 3.5. I
Yeah. So, okay. I really, I don't disagree with what you say there, Sterling, but to me, that's not the takeaway here. Okay. Because first of all, neutral. Every Fed speaker, literally every Fed speaker, has said they need to get above neutral to contain inflation. So if neutral's 3.5%, right? What's restrictive? It's at least 4, and it's likely more than that. So the takeaway for me is like, let's say she's right. Okay, let's say she's right that that's what the consensus at the Fed is. Well, they're still 50 basis points away from neutral, and they need to get above neutral. Also, the important comment from Daly was interventions to stabilize a dislocated market is very different from quantitative easing. No, it's not. No, it's not. Quantitative easing was an intervention designed to stabilize dislocated markets. So, no, it's not. It's not any different. Number one. Number two, the form that quantitative easing would take, in my opinion, if it were to happen, um, it would be more long-term yield curve control. So let's say the Fed pauses, completely expected. The pivot starts in the long end, not in the short end. So let's say they do the 75 basis point rates at 375. They do 50 in December, rates at 4.25. And now they go, okay, we're going to pause and watch what's happening, but there's a dislocation in the market, and we don't want the long end to spike. So we're going to engage in quantitative easing on between 10-year and 30 years. And we're going to buy those bonds to keep rates lower. Okay, so that's what daily means, because most of what they've bought in the past has been short end, been shorter duration stuff. So that's where that comes into play. And it's not different. She's referring, I think, and I don't know what the question was that she made that comment, because I wasn't watching the speech. That was just somebody quoting her, or the interview rather. I think she might have been referring to what the Bank of England did. She might not have even been referring to what the Fed would do. The Bank of England bought longer dated, longer duration stuff, 20, 30 years out. And then they stopped doing it. I think that's what she's referencing, is that they can intervene to stabilize a dislocated market. But what I think she's missing when she says that is the thing that stabilized the market. Yeah, it was the bond buying, but it was really the resignation of Kwasi Kwarteng, and then the resignation of Liz Truss, and then the installation of Jeremy Hunt. That stabilized things just as much as the bond buying program did, in my opinion.
Before we let you go, because we're having still some tech issues, any thoughts on? I thought it was interesting with a Friday evening Bank of Japan intervention their time.
Yeah, so 32-year lows, I think, is what we hit on the yen.
Yeah,
So dollar yen would be 32-year highs, right? No, it's the other way around. Yeah, it's that. No, I'm right on that. 1990, July of 1990 was the last time it came to this point. And I think if you look at that spike right there, that's why the Bank of Japan did that, because they're like, okay, this is actually accelerating. And we've got a meeting next week, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. There's a Bank of Japan meeting. So I think that's why they did it. I think that they can now go in having stabilized the currency at like 29-year lows. They could go in on their meeting and actually maybe make an impact. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was interesting too. And I thought this was one of the things, Mike, we've talked about this. If you're going against the market, the intervention doesn't work. Well, now you were doing this on a Friday.
yeah, I know.
So there's 2 days for this to sit. And you're not likely to have a lot of FX traders. Crap, when this started, the FX traders in Tokyo were already drunk.
Yeah, I did.
So
That's what was very interesting about it. You know, especially interventions don't generally work. One-sided interventions don't work, and this is definitely a one-sided intervention.
yeah,
Uh, and it's done on a Friday night.
which that I mean, that's why it's short-term worked, right?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like when they announce big political things on Friday afternoon so that the news cycle doesn't pick it up.
or it's when you get 10 Qs, you know, or you know the company releases their quarterly earnings, you know, the breakdown of it on a Friday night. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, what don't you want people to dive into?
Or when a restaurant like in the middle of the Midwest serves fish on a Sunday night before they're closed on Monday at half price. It's like that.
Like, I don't want to order that fish. All right.
Coco, I did not buy calls, Coco. I bought actual stocks.
All right. Coco's we have so I'm expecting we have actually funny enough the US dollar Japanese yen has a potential double bottom already set up.
Of course it does. Of course
guess
it does.
guess what I'm watching for Sunday night. And it's done. What happens if what if it's back to pre-intervention levels before their meeting?
I mean, look, they need to. They're trying to, in my opinion, they're trying to avoid a policy change. It's not going to work. They need to change policy, or continue. This needs to continue, or the Federal Reserve needs to aggressively change policy here. So who knows? We're in the quiet period, so we won't find out till November. So,
And no, it's going to be the next week and a half of pure bliss from peacefulness of no Fed speak.
all right.
Well, I'm going
All
to
right.
let you get started
There
on
you
your
go.
Friday night.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, I'll chat with you next week.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. Sorry if we were having any technical issues. I checked everything on my end. I know Sterling said he logged out and logged in. The audio was correct. Sorry if we were still having issues. I double checked everything as I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Just wanted to get over there and before my head exploded from the amount of times I said that I heard today that this was a pivot. I could not go through until Sunday without saying this was not a pivot. It's going to be and always was. The Fed is going to slow down at some point. But this is not a pivot in policy. What I'm more worried about is I think, and didn't really get to touch on this with Bob, but the timing of all this was on a Friday with OpEx. Was almost like it was forced out today. I know we have the Fed blackout period, but to stabilize some stuff. I don't have confirmation on anything like that, but it seemed very forced on an option expiration Friday that the market you had to get that dollar down at all costs today, because not only did the Tim Ross article pre-start the dollar going down, then you got the yen intervention. Then you got the yen intervention. So that's what's interesting. It was almost like we got to go into weekend weakening the dollar. By the way, potential little double bottom in the dollar index. So that's just where I want to leave it. You know, you got a lot of buying pressure in the notes today, but still not. What's so funny is it still hasn't erased the prior 2 days of selling pressure, and it's not even back to a breakdown zone or the weekly rotation zone. That's what's. So we're going to see how long this lasts. Mike, did the weakness in the dollar index at the end of the day have to do with the Banco? At the end of the day, have to do with Bank of Japan selling dollar-denominated assets to intervene? They already looked like they sold their. Remember, they did. Again, they did not announce, but it didn't look like there was selling today of assets. They can generally do that before the intervention. We might have had selling if they were selling assets the last couple of days with this breakdown. Remember, they don't have to sell assets the same day they intervene. So, you know, and overall, the macro picture in the dollar, you're still, I mean, besides this insanely wide range bar, you're still in. If you just take a step back, a 50,000 foot view step back, look, I mean, you're still in a trading range. It couldn't even close below. It actually couldn't even close below the 18th. So I think it's going to get interesting on with Sunday night. I know what I'm going to be glancing at, one of the first things, especially with some of the currency moves on Sunday. So I'll just glance at Netflix. By the way, I said to watch Google today, you know, for that. That was a really nice gap fill play. Now we'll look at Netflix. What are you getting squeezed hard in what? It never, from my perspective, never triggered the gap harmonics, and you have a major rally now in the NASDAQ. So wouldn't, if you're still short this, unless you get something toppy on Sunday night, I would not want to remain short this in the short term. We can easily see still 309 in this kind of market. We're going to go into some rallying here. Well, also, guys, Waka's in the UK, and it is nighttime there in the UK on a Friday. Why don't you see if Waka's back on Sunday before you pick on Waka? Because actually, nighttime in the UK on a Friday night, I don't know if I'd be tuning into my own live stream. So, you know, you don't know. He could have stopped out as short. Who knows? Remember, people have different durations and time frames. So keep in mind. So next minor target on this, also from the way prior, I mean, you're still looking. This could easily, if we get a continued rally in the markets, you could easily see Netflix get back to, especially if we get a close below 62.5 harmonic, we could easily see We could technically easily see still this gap left behind at April. So this is not, especially if you were trying to short this going in, today should have blown out your shorts. Because now on any pullback, you have these two highs as support. So unless this can really break down, unless you get a big rollover play Sunday night, Monday, I would not want to be, and we start breaking down the NASDAQ again, I would not want to be short Netflix. I know we're at different times. The seasonality says the next couple weeks will be good. Generally, the end of October is stronger. The key things with this year is we got a substantial election coming up in November. I still gotta go with tactile trading. Also, we still have the Dow, which the double, we're almost to the first target on the Dow double. So can this reinforce? I mean, can this still go from today's close? Close enough to raise a stop at least, but can this thing easily go 3.6% higher? Yeah. Easily. So that's still in play also. All right. With that, I'm going to wrap it up for now. I am exhausted. It's a nice evening here. It finally warmed up again. I'm doing gonna sous vide a couple fillets. By the way, that's the best way to do some fillets. You put them in for 2 hours at sous vide at about 126, 126 and a half degrees in a vacuum sealed bag. Then you get that grill piping hot and sear the outsides. Just to finish it off, get that outside seared after it's been sous vide for a couple. Perfect temperature all the way through. So, that's what I will be doing tonight. I sous vide. See? Sterling, you just got a bonus star. Sous vide everything meat. If you don't sous vide your steaks and then you finish them on the grill, you're missing something. You're missing something in life. I mean, that is the way to do it. And Sterling gets the A+ for concurrent. Do you think the yen will cause the market to collapse if I think the yen could get interested, and its intervention, it will rally back. I think long term we're going to get some, and I think this time it could be at some point. I don't think we're there yet, but at some point the yen could do it. Chef Mike, thank you, Paul, for jumping in here. My wife doesn't cook. Well, my wife doesn't grill, and we take turns cooking. And she'll cook some things, and she's gonna do some of the broccoli tonight. I'm doing the meat. She does a lot of stuff, and I do other stuff, but she is not the grilling person. I am the sous vide and grilling person. And she generally does sides if it's certain meals, like when we do a wild mushroom risotto, she'll get everything all set up, and then I will be the person just to put the risotto together, cook it. And, but she'll get everything prepped, including, bringing the dried mushrooms up and getting all that done. It's like an hour of prep. We take turns with stuff. Lots of things like we did, enchiladas, chicken enchiladas with salsa verde last night. Oh, so no, my wife's not a vegetarian. No, she will be eating a steak tonight. Nothing wrong with vegetarian, but she is not a vegetarian. So yes, we do everything. The one thing I am the one in charge of the dishes. I do the dishes every night. That is my one of my jobs. I also do the laundry. I'm the laundry doer. Dishes and laundry fall in my court. So, we split up all the chores and housework and everything else. So it's nice and easy. As Patrick says, teamwork. Yes, sous vide is the only way to have juicy, boneless, skinless breasts. Also, you know what you can do? Shellfish. Oh, Sterling, have you ever? I don't know if you eat shellfish. Some people don't, but sous vide king crab legs, and you put in some salted butter in the vacuum sealed bag as you sous vide some king crab legs, and you cut them down so the salted butter can soak in it while it's sous videing. Oh, because then you just you finish cracking them open, and then you want to talk about something else? King crab risotto. Woof. Oh, when I do that, there we go. Now I'm hungry. See, Josh does laundry, dishes as well. Sharing is caring. It takes the load off one person. We gotta, you know what? You help your significant other, or your partner, or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. You help out. You help out. Makes things better. Yeah, that's you gotta try it. You can even do, it's scallop sous vide really well too, because then you can quickly super quick sear them at the end, and they are perfect consistency if you sous vide them first. Anybody who doesn't have a sous vide, you're missing out in life with your cooking style. Learn to sous vide. You are welcome, John. I'm making you hungry. Yeah. No, wasn't it snow crab season? Don't tell me Alaskan king. I thought it was snow crab that was canceled. Don't tell me king crab. Don't tell me I need, and king crab legs, most of them are frozen anyways. But don't tell me that. There will be a crisis. Also, if you ever do beef tenderloin roast, definitely you can sous vide it in. You put in some a little red wine and mix with a little port, and you season it. Then you sous vide it in the beef, and then you sear your tenderloin just briefly on the outside after you sous vide that for closer to 2.5 to 3 hours. Perfect beef tenderloin roll. Oh, oof. I will leave it at that. If you have any recipe questions, just reach out to me via the support. I will be back on Sunday afternoon. Hope everyone we'll cover some more things on Sunday. Everyone just have a wonderful evening. If it's nice weather where you are, enjoy some outside time, because before we know it, will be extra cold here. And I will see everybody to prep for the markets on Sunday. What's the difference between lobster and crab meat? Well, considering they're like both shellfish, but very different kinds of shellfish, I think they taste very different. And even crab meat's not all the same. King crab is different from snow crab. So I think crab meat tends to be a little sweeter in my book. But you can also sous vide lobster tails and then quickly finish them under a broiler. I don't know if somebody else could figure out a better way to explain that. I mean, they're very different in my book. I'm just trying to figure out a way to explain it. But lobster risotto is also good. You cook the lobster tail ahead and only put it into the risotto at the very end. Not king crab. Not around here. No crab harvest of any kind from Alaska. Does that mean I better run out and pre-buy my king crab legs? Thank you for that, George. Before the holiday season? Because I don't want to be shut out. I don't want to be shut out of this. That would be tragic. Because maybe I'll have to go with for lobster risotto. With some sweet peas. Oh, by the way, another great risotto if you've never tried it to go if you eat meat. Like I'll do this with a beef tenderloin or just a tenderloin fillet. I will make a gorgonzola risotto because you know some people put gorgonzola or sear it on the top when their steaks are done. I just like to put it in. You can look up a great recipe for a gorgonzola risotto to pair with a really good filet. Amazing combo right there. If you've never tried a gorgonzola risotto, there you go. All right. I'll leave it as that. There's Mike's See what you get for tuning into the channel. You also get recipe tips. With that, I will talk to everyone on Sunday. Bye for now.